This episode of the only podcast about movies was recorded a little differently. Though Shahir and I are back in the studio, we have a special guest via Skype joining us. Therefore, if you hear any audio anomalies like tinniness or echo or, I don't know, maybe even a love letter being read at the top of the episode, just let it slide. Although I don't know if I could blame the love letter thing on our guest. Anyway, enjoy the show. My dearest internet, I knew from the first time I saw this film, it would be a dividing affair. And since eloquence is in such short supply amongst the singular podcast about motion pictures, I fear for the dark times ahead. While the subject at hand may not earn its time in your mind's eye after viewing it, I can only pray that our deconstruction of the tale brings truth to your ears and warmth to your hearts. Also, if you take one thing away from my correspondent's dearest internet, let it be this. Stealing children is totes romantic. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I'm Shahir Dowd. Dear listener, one day this will all feel like a dream because you will forget what Matthew just said.
This is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film The Light Between Oceans.
Is it The Light or A Light?
I think it's the...
Oh, well, we have someone here who can fact check us.
Yes!
Hello, Annie Gillies.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here and argue with you.
You sound excited.
She is our...
I have a man voice.
You have a man voice?
Yeah. I feel
Untrue.
I've got like early morning man voice or something. I don't know.
Well, thanks for getting up early morning to listen to us.
You're here via satellite through the magic of the interweb.
I am. Yes, I'm in Buffalo, New York right now.
For our listeners, Annie Gillies is the producer extraordinaire from MTV for the last 13 years. She is the producer. You might have seen her name on Wild and Out, on Common Sense, and a very exciting show that's coming up soon that we can't really talk about.
Keep it locked.
So keeping it on the DL. She's also the quintessential Buffalo Bills fan.
And a really good aunt, from
Really
what
good-
I understand.
Although hasn't
Yes.
met my child yet.
So a semi-good aunt?
Semi-good aunt.
A great aunt to children related to her.
I got him good gifts. Like
You got him
even
good
haven't
gifts?
met him yet. You
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
That is
You
true.
did. Yeah, you did get him good gifts. We have tweeted photos of his gifts.
Yeah.
But Annie, the reason we got you on the show is that I was sitting in an edit booth with you one day, and for some reason we started talking about Alicia Vikander.
Yes.
And you're a big fan, right?
Yeah, Alicia. That's how
Alicia.
you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Fact check number one.
No. It was probably this time last year when I got the first screener for The Danish Girl, and I was like, I watched it, and I was halfway through, and it was the first time ever I stopped a movie, and I went and looked up on IMDb to see who the actress was, and it was her, and I've watched all of her films since. So yes,
See, one thing about Annie that I've noticed over the years is that when you love someone on screen, you really fall hard for them, right? Like this is you really go all in.
Yeah. I get. I mean, not obsessed is a horrible word for it.
Not
But yeah,
obsessed,
no.
In fact, I would say, Annie, to be honest, and I've known you, God, for better part of 12 years, 13 years at this
Yeah.
point. Actually, I was Annie's intern back in
Yes,
the day.
back in the
wow.
day. Good
Yeah.
old, yeah.
But something I've always respected about you in this space in particular is you are the best kind of fan of something. And by that, I mean, you have all of the heart and the energy and sort of the drive behind loving a thing without a drop of the crazy. Because especially in my wheelhouse of comic book movies and, superheroes and video games and stuff, you have a lot of passionate people.
Yeah.
But rarely with your wonderful temperament. Not rarely, but just there's more bad seeds in my camp.
Yeah, well, my mom always says that no matter what it is, if it's a favorite actress or a team or a friend, I'm very loyal. So yes, I'm loyal, and when I like something, I'm all in.
So has Alicia, it's Alicia, right?
Yes.
Has she let you down so far?
You know something? I didn't love the Bourne movie.
Okay, I didn't even see she was in the latest Bourne movie.
Yeah, but
I
that
didn't
was
see it.
more like, she didn't really have any speaking parts. It
Right, she was kind of steamrolled.
she had to be
And-
angry the whole time.
For Matt, you'll enjoy this. She is the new Lara Croft.
What?
She's the new Tomb Raider.
I guess I could see that.
Yeah, she is playing based on the new
The new video game, which
Yeah.
is great. I think that movie's super cinematic, although it kind of might fall into Uncharted territory where I don't really need it. Like, I don't need a new
Tomb Raider movie, but whatever. But I loved her in she's obviously in this film that we're talking about, The Light Between Oceans, but she's the lead. But I loved her in Ex Machina.
She's amazing in Ex
that was
Machina.
an amazing movie.
Yeah.
And Annie, you even pointed out because she's Swedish, right?
Yes, Swedish.
You pointed out a Swedish film that we felt that you thought we should watch, Pure, at some point.
Yeah, that was her first film that she ever did, and it's like mind-blowing to think that's her first film if you watch it. And then she won like the equivalent of the Swedish Oscar for it, her very first film ever. But you should watch it.
And how old is this girl? She seems very, very
she's
young.
like 27.
Oh God, I hate her already.
Shahir has this thing where he just hates people younger than him that are successful.
Yeah, it really.
That's like everybody.
I don't think you do. I don't think you do, Annie.
No, I don't. I don't care at all. I'm like, good for you. Like,
yeah.
And I like.
Well, I'm just a jealous, bitter person. What can I say?
Maybe that's it. That's what you are.
But the other thing that was surprising is when we started talking about it is you have read the book, and that was a big qualifier in my sense. And then you were a big fan. I'm personally a very big fan of the director Derek Cianfrance, and you were as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've only he's only had a couple films that I've really seen, but I loved Blue Valentine and The Place Beyond the Pines.
I think those two movies are both phenomenal. So the reason I was interested in this movie was, obviously if a new filmmaker comes out that gets me excited, I like to keep track of what they're going to be doing next. So Blue Valentine I thought was phenomenal. Place Beyond the Pines just blew my mind away. And I saw that on an airplane on the smallest possible screen. And even then I was devastated by that movie.
In a good way?
Oh, it
devastation in the best way is what you're saying.
It knocked me off my feet, and
you were sitting down.
It knocked me off my ass onto the aisle, which is very awkward because the stewardess had to come and pick me up. But I went home and I bought the Blu-ray, and I've watched it a couple of times since. I just think that film is amazing. And so when he became a person that I was like, whatever he makes next, I'm going to go see. Which is maybe the wrong choice this week because I saw it last night at a screening in Manhattan where myself and my wife were the only two people in the theater, completely empty, and this movie's only been out a week. Maybe we should have seen Bridget Jones's Baby instead.
Well, to be fair, you did go at like 10:50 or something
on a Friday night in a fairly busy movie theater.
I guess I don't know.
How was your screening, Annie? Was it busy?
Yeah, I mean, I went the first week. This is the third week it's been out now. And yeah, I mean, it was I would say about half full for like I think I went at 1:30 on like a Sunday. So in Buffalo too.
In Buffalo, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, so for our listeners, we realize this is not the most highly viewed film, but that's the kind of film we like to put eyes on. At least I like to. Matt, I'm not sure you like to either.
Hey, before we get into my opinion, let's do a little housekeeping here. We have a new website. Let's go there real quick.
Onlymoviepodcast.com.
.com. That's right. And you can go find all of our life and works there, all of our past reviews. You can contact us through there, or you can contact us still at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com for any requests or concerns, movies you want us to touch on. Hell, actually, later on this week, we will be dropping...
We'll be driving through.
They're making me watch Drive, Annie. I hate Drive. But 4 or 5 listeners have requested that we review Drive.
It's a good soundtrack. It's a really good soundtrack.
It is an excellent soundtrack.
I think 2 of those listeners are Nicholas Parker.
Yeah.
But so we do love to take requests. Annie, I think we'll try and fit in Pure at some point.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see what you guys think of it. I think that would be a great one.
Yeah, and also check us out on iTunes so you can subscribe on there. Please, if you like what you hear, leave us some stars. I'm not gonna be so presumptuous as to say how many stars.
Yeah,
but some stars would be lovely. And of course, you can check us out on our Facebook page where Shahir constantly posts videos about the Marvel Universe, trying to pick at my calm.
Hey, I'm just pointing out what's being said on the internet.
Check out that video. There's a video on there about the scoring in films, Annie. It's about how big budget movies, the Marvel ones in particular, are sort of dropping the ball when it comes to scores. I agree/disagree, and I think the video has a lot of problems, and it's like, here's why there's a problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a good talking point. Everyone should go check that out.
Cool.
But anyway,
here's
the light.
Here's a synopsis.
Between oceans. IMDb synopsis, Shahir, go.
A lighthouse keeper and his wife living off the coast of Western Australia raise a baby they rescue from an adrift rowboat. Simple, snappy, that's it.
Untrue.
Untrue. What's untrue about that?
That's not what it's untrue because that's not what the movie is about.
But that's what happens. In
yes,
the movie.
that's what happens within 5 minutes of the film. Like, not within 5 minutes.
No,
I'm
not
saying
within 5 minutes at all.
Like encapsulated in a specific 5 minutes of the film. Do you get what I'm saying? Not like it happened in the first 5 minutes.
This is not the only movie podcast about IMDb synopsize.
No, I'm just saying it's a bad out of all of these because they're not generally great.
Yeah.
This one is the least great.
I don't
in a
think
while.
that's egregiously wrong. But Annie,
Yeah.
here's a question for you. Did you know about this as a book before the film was coming out, or did you come to it because you knew the film was coming out?
I knew the film was coming out, so that's what. Because I'm not gonna lie, it takes me a lot to read a book.
Right.
But knowing that it was coming out and there was actors I liked in it, I read it and then I breezed through it. And once I started reading the book, I was talking to people and like everyone's read this book. I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of women have read this book.
I was about to read it. I bought it specifically to read it before this review came along, but I was reading 2 other books at the same time, and I didn't quite get to this one.
Stop reading the devil stuff, man.
We're doing a movie review about a very old British film, and I'm reading a lot of history about it.
Ugh.
But I really wanted to read this, so I ended up reading the first 5 pages. And then I was like, I'm going to get to this before we review the movie, but I didn't quite get to it. But tell me your experience of reading the book before we get into the movie, and without spoilers if you can.
Yeah, so no, I mean, the book itself, like I said, I don't read a lot. I wish I could. It puts me to sleep. But I finished the book in like a week, and I just couldn't put it down. But I mean, then knowing the book, there's a ridiculous premise behind it, the whole baby washing ashore. So I knew that going into the film,
Right.
that it was, having to dispense belief to some extent. But no, I mean, the book was decent, but knowing that they were the actors in it, I could kind of visualize it more. But
didn't you just? I mean, you said to me that the book kind of really moved you though, like the actual story, the actual execution of the story.
Well, at the end, so I finished the book and I literally cried for like an hour and like just felt depressed all night. But that same feeling happened in the film.
Wow, that's really hard to translate that kind of emotional content of a book into a film.
Yeah, I've never heard of a adaptation that was so spot on. They literally, and this could be a positive or a negative for some people, but it was like scene by scene, exactly like the book.
Well, sorry.
No, I was going to say, even the way in the beginning, it's almost like very montagey. Like that's literally how the book is.
Do you think now that I've gone backwards and I've seen the film and not read the book, should I go back and read the book?
You really don't even need to. I mean, it's literally like I'd have to go back and see. I can't imagine there was that much dialogue added. It's like almost exactly. There's like one part in the beginning of the book that wasn't in it, and I was glad it wasn't because I think it would have made it it would have been a cheesy beginning of the film. But after that, it's literally exactly the same.
Well, the thing, I kind of am coming at this from the opposite end of stuff. So I watched I hadn't read the book, and I watched the trailer for the film, and I thought the trailer made the film seem interesting. But
I stopped watching the trailer because I felt it gave away the whole.
Well, it kind of does, and that's sort of my point. So, God, I'm torn on a lot of different parts of this film, and I don't want to give anything away before spoilers. But basically, the premise that we just read you doesn't really take effect until after like the first hour. Right?
Well, 30 minutes. Like
if it's 30 minutes, it felt longer than that to me.
Right.
But because it goes through these two people's sort of courtships and how they ended up there, and that was probably like the most interesting part to me. Though, granted, you could have gotten to the meat and potatoes of this faster. Like personally, since their history, I guess, the two characters who fall in love, who eventually find this baby at the lighthouse, since their history isn't crazy important to the last 2/3 of the film, like it's really not, I would have been fine with them just sort of like having a quick courtship or something like that, and just they're this family that lives on the island. Like you can establish characters and caring about people in a fast manner, but like this is what I'm trying to say. The beginning set up a film that I was like, wait, this isn't what this thing's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about this, like, where's this baby? Like, 'cause I saw the trailer, and then I was like, man, if I didn't watch the trailer, this might be interesting because it'd be like a twist to me at the end. I'm like, oh, there's a baby. Yeah. And then like, I would have maybe been more invested. And then I was thinking about people, Annie, who read the book. And if it is verbatim, I personally, I would have found that like, just like long and,
But see,
I wonder, But I wonder too, and this is something I guess in the way that mediums sort of play, like again, when people adapt stuff that's in my wheelhouse, comic books, etc. Even let's go with Walking Dead, right? Do you watch Walking Dead?
Yes.
Okay, so Walking Dead does something wonderful, I think, is even though it missteps a lot, it takes the thoughts and the premise of the show and twists the actual plot enough so if you've read the book, it keeps it interesting enough for you moving forward, and you can sort of read and watch in tandem. And I know this isn't long form, and I know this is a sort of a film adaptation of one novel. It's not the same, but I just felt like you didn't feel any redundancy. You just were like super happy to see what you liked on screen.
Well, I think that you need that whole setup because you need to see these characters and care about them, that they're like in love and they could, endure things together. I felt you needed that time to see them together. And then the things that happens before the baby comes, when she has those couple issues, I thought that was huge because that just shows you the kind of mindset she was in.
Right. I mean, that does set up the mindset. I think, and I don't think we should lose that aspect of it. We'll get into that in spoilers.
I think we can say what it is. It's she has 2 miscarriages before the baby arrives.
Yeah.
Very painfully depicted miscarriages as well.
And I mean, that's something too, like just seeing that, like, maybe as a woman, but like you don't see that on film that often and in such a raw way. It was so like that's it was a very emotional. I mean, she did a great job in it, obviously, but like it was just emotional to see that. And then I know people who have gone through that, and you do go into like a crazy depression, and then to see the whole baby situation, it makes stealing a baby a little bit more realistic, potentially
palatable.
Yes.
It's also I mean, it's such a like having just had a baby and like going through issues like that. It's a very common occurrence, but it's not something that I think young pregnant mothers are aware of. How common it is, and so to see it like for me to see it depicted like that as powerfully as it was depicted was and I do agree. I think the setup really helps the payoff of the emotional content later on. So Annie, I'm guessing you're a fan of the movie.
Yes. I did. I loved it because I felt like
you saw it twice, didn't you?
Yeah, because I saw a screening, and then I went with a group of friends.
Okay, so you wanted to vote with your dollars.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
And how was the experience? Well, okay, I mean, tell us what you think about it.
Well, the first time I saw it, it was it's that whole like taking a book to a movie. So I just was kind of watching. I didn't feel like I got to just enjoy it because I was like, oh, are they going to do this next? Like thinking too much. Yeah. But I enjoyed it. There wasn't. Like, I didn't want it to end in the sense of, like, I knew what was going to happen, but I was enjoying the journey. It was just kind of, I guess I don't see films like that often. That it's just, it could be those long sweeping shots, and maybe you don't need all of that. But it just was, like, very pretty and very just, like, interesting to watch, and just seeing kind of, these women that you're kind of, afterwards, we were all debating, like, you're not sure who's the bad person or if there's a bad person. And it's just kind of, what would you do in that? And, in different instances, it was, I don't know, not thought-provoking like a film that, because this is obviously, like I said, dispensing belief, but like it was thought-provoking. Like it was, it had different opinions on what they would have done and, who each of these characters were.
I mean, and we'll get into it, but I definitely have opinions. I know who the bad people are.
So from I'm glad you thought it was pretty as well, because that's my home country. It was shot in New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. A lot of people on the crew that I have worked with and seen before as well. So it was really cool to see some names of
nice.
Of people.
That's
I
cool.
know. Yeah. So here's the thing. I really enjoyed it, and I went in not from the book's point of view, but looking from Derek Cianfrance's point of view. I hope that's how you pronounce his name.
Let's go with yes.
Yes. And here, I like you, Annie. I really enjoyed it. I loved being in the film. I loved the world of the film. I loved pretty much every single character in this film. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of moments where characters did things that I found questionable, but again, because the filmmaking, the acting, the writing was so strong, I was willing to go along with it. Mm-hmm. So I was with it. Now, the only thing that I would say is, and here's the thing, as a grown ass man, I am a strong lover of melodrama, and I'm a strong. I love weepies. I love films that like.
Oh, you love love.
I do. I love films that can actually like get me to cry and like get me to feel like really invested in the story. And the two from the last decade that I really adore, or actually three, would be
go for four.
Why don't we go for four? Would be Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain gets me every single time. I think that is just a wonderful melodrama that touches the depth of the human heart in ways that most media can't do. Blue is the Warmest Color. The French film, I forget the director's name, is just wonderful. And I'm drawing a blank on the third. What
so it was really just two.
No, there was a third. Now I've gone blank on it. But either way, it'll hit me in the middle of my
synopsis of what I think of the film before we get into spoilers. Shears is going to yell out the third movie.
Bam! Yeah. Blade Runner. Yeah. Bam! No, but I did. And the thing that I thought was interesting about this film, two or three things. One was that
it's really just two.
It's really just two. Derek Cianfrance, the last two films he's done, he's played so much with structure. Blue Valentine has this alternating timeline that jumps between the start of a relationship and the end of a relationship, and The Place Beyond the Pines spans like an intergenerational, the consequences of an event that spans two generations. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I felt was most interesting about him was that he seemed to be able to take emotional content and still play around with cinematic structure in a really unique and interesting way, but still be able to deliver the emotional content. Something that sometimes, say, someone like Quentin Tarantino, he's really good at playing with time and with structure, but I don't get the emotional resonance of why he's playing with that time or structure. And I think Derek Cianfrance does it really, really well. He manages to make the structural changes he does make sense and be important. So I was kind of curious as to watching this film how linearly this film unfolded. It was really like, here's the beginning, here's the story, here are these two characters meeting, here is the miscarriages, and then here's the baby, and then here's the consequence of that. It was very linear. Obviously, there's one element to this that we'll get into in spoilers later on that maybe crosses that boundary.
Dragons.
A little bit. Dragons appear later on around the lighthouse. So I was kind of like, oh, he's really like going against what he's done before. And I'm when a filmmaker tries to go in a different direction, I really like that. I will say I did find that the film, though really exquisitely made, beautiful, everything about it was really exceptional to me. And I loved being in it. I found that the longer it drew on, the less impactful the eventual conclusion was. The eventual, like, the moments that should have hit me, I think half hit me. It's not that I didn't feel the emotion that was going on, but I just wasn't like, like at the end of Brokeback Mountain where I'm just a wreck on the floor, or Blue Valentine or The Place Beyond the Pines. I wasn't quite there, but I did find the moments very powerful. And I did think that they, if you like Annie, like yourself, Annie, were completely invested in the way this movie was going and were just willing to go along with it, then I think those moments would have completely landed.
Yeah.
There's another side to this, which I feel like this movie, there's so much A-list talent behind this movie. Adam Arkapour shot this movie, and he's a phenomenal DP. He's actually shooting. So the same team is kind of assembling together for one of a film that I'm sure Matt's going to see, Assassin's Creed. It's the same DP, same Michael Fassbender, same production team.
Oh, you're going to see it too.
I'm going to be forced to see it, I'm afraid.
If I'm seeing this, you're seeing Assassin's Creed.
Listen, the reason I would go see Assassin's Creed is Adam Arkapour, who's the DP. He's phenomenal. So, there's an interesting thing that's happening there, which is that because I believe Michael Fassbender's production company is behind this as well, which is that they're doing these big blockbusters, and then they're taking time out to do these much smaller, intimate films.
Yeah,
as well.
You do the safe picture, then you do the art picture. We learned that in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That's what you do. Yeah, applesauce, bitch.
It's what you do. But I feel like this felt like this was supposed to be an award winner, and I think it got dumped a little early, and maybe it's because it's a little long. I'm not too sure. It feels like it doesn't quite land in the award-winning film mold, but it's still exceptional, still worth your time. I really did enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like, like the awards that'll probably come from it or nominations would be things like cinematography and acting, as opposed to, because like it's coming from a book that wasn't, the story itself, I don't think could lend to maybe being an award-winning story.
Agreed.
But I don't know, maybe that, but I thought the way they did the film was, exquisite. And I thought the acting and, was amazing.
So on my end, I know no one's asking, but I'm just gonna go. Normally, Annie, I don't feel bad when Shahir and I disagree, but I really like you, Annie, and I feel bad that I'm going to essentially, be not trying to prove anybody right or wrong, but basically saying what didn't work for me. And a lot of the things that you both said, I disagree with. Let's start with what I agree with.
Okay.
I think the acting is good. Mm-hmm. I really like all the people in it. Who really got me? I want to find his name. The guy it was a minor character, but the boat captain.
Jack Thompson. He's an amazing stalwart of Australian cinema.
Ralph, he was great.
If you like him, he is in this amazing film called The Sum of Us with Russell Crowe.
Okay.
And this was made years ago, and it's basically Russell Crowe is a gay rugby player in Australia, like the most masculine area.
Right.
And Jack Thompson is dead, the pirate captain is dead, and he has to learn to accept his son's homosexual.
That's cool.
And he does it by like trying to set up dates for his son and buying pornography for his son. It's really great.
Is it a comedy or is it a drama?
It's a
dramedy.
It's a dramedy. It's fantastic.
I will check that out. So I liked him. Everyone's performances were serviceable. The
serviceable.
Well, they were, except for there was a couple stand-up moments. Obviously, when the miscarriages occur, like those are powerful moments, and I think they were extremely well played from both actors involved. However, after
Here it comes, Annie.
After the baby. Well, sorry. Let's talk a little bit technical first. So the cinematography you guys are saying was great. I got to go 50-50 on it, to be honest. So the framing was beautiful. The shots, when everything was framed, with the exception of some weird close-ups, there were some super close-ups in the beginning that were framed oddly, and I couldn't tell why. I'm like, there's a reason for this, and maybe I'm missing it. But whenever they did a super close-up in the first half of the film, especially during the courtment, it was very uneven.
You're talking about the scene where they're looking out of the...
That was one of them.
Yeah.
And then as for a film with the word light in the title, I felt like everything was super muted, with the exception of when you have a shot of the sun or a shot of the lighthouse going. Everything else was just, there was no color to anything. It felt like the romantic movie equivalent of there's a term sort of like the gray box shooter in video games, when all these stupid games look exactly the same and it's just gray hallways. This is just gray landscapes.
I disagree, actually. I thought one of the things that
there was some green.
No, one of the things that they were doing was that I thought was really it's really challenging if you're a cinematographer, is they were shooting into the light all the time,
which is insane. And I know, and they got a clear enough image. But what I'm saying is, from a palette standpoint, and from what is my normal wheelhouse of sort of enjoyment of visual aesthetics, and I like going weird. This didn't feel like weird or extreme. It just felt meh. It was just sort of there. I think the framing again was great. Color, not so much for me. And then finally, let's get into spoilers, because we've been doing a lot of opinion, is while the writing itself I don't have a problem with. I know I poked fun at it with that letter in the beginning. There's a lot of letter reading in this movie. A lot. But the story itself relies on a lot of stuff, Shahir, that you hate. It's this happens and then this happens. There's not a lot of this happens because this happens. And we can go through it as we go down.
Right.
But it was a lot of sort of... convenience in an odd way, and then to the point, there's a moment, the breaking point for me at this film near the end of it, where I was like, oh, so logic is not going to function anymore. Okay. Basically, again, writing fine, story as it went, it just spaghettied out of control for me. And I got to be honest, everyone's talking about how emotionally relevant, I guess, it is for people. And maybe it's where I am at in my life, or maybe not. But like, I've been moved by Brokeback Mountain. I've been moved by, oddly enough, Terminator 2. Like, there's ways to build characters, at least for my specific palette, that make me truly care about them. I cared obviously about them during the miscarriages, because that's just like human, right? Like, you see that and you're like, fuck, like, that's fucking terrible, and you're in it with them, and it's just like, it's raw, and you feel awful for them if you have any slice of humanity. But as the movie went on, no character was was actually a good person. And like, but before a lot of bad stuff happened to people they set up for us to care about. And then everyone just fucks up so bad. Everyone, with the exception of the boat captain, because he was awesome. And then I was like, well, I don't feel bad for any of these people anymore.
Wow.
So
your heart sounds very dark and cold, man.
No, well, yes, but it sometimes it grows 6 times its size. And this just was
we're
not
talking
one
about
of them.
your heart here, not
like
your lower extremities.
when
Jesus.
without I don't know if we say spoiler, but when she's in the jail and they take the daughter away and she just crumbles to the ground. I mean, my friend sitting next to me who has a daughter was like gripping my hand and like almost uncontrollably, like making sobby noises. And I felt bad for the daughter, but I didn't feel bad for Crazy Pants who stole a baby.
So
let's get into spoilers.
We should get into spoilers here.
So let's. I feel like
spoilers starting right now. I'm going to do a different voice every time, but that's a spoiler voice.
Wow, Annie, I don't know. I'm sitting across from him. It was like he was teleported to another realm, and a small gnome was here.
I'm glad I'm in Buffalo.
Yeah. I am too, because I feel like you'd strangle me by the end of this. Because again, and I'll even do Shahir's sort of before we get into spoilers, because this is where I'm gonna go ham. We do understand it takes a lot to make a movie. Like, I understand too that this is not my particular cup of tea, but I've seen films that are not my cup of tea and loved them. This just didn't hit for me for whatever reason. However, I don't want to take away from anyone who actually, spent time in crafting and making this thing, because it obviously works for 66.66666% of the people reviewing this film currently.
Remember, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle between you and Annie.
I don't know. You went pretty positive. I'm going to put you in the positive camp.
I definitely enjoyed it, but I'm not in love with this movie like I am in love with Brokeback Mountain.
Sure.
Or The Woman's Color.
Anyway. And before you get into the spoilers, you were talking about, all the people making the film. I don't know, it might be interesting to hear what Derek did with the cast at the Lighthouse, because it was so secluded. I don't know if you guys knew that he actually set up camp there, and there was only like a crew of like 20 people, and they lived there for a whole month.
And that's great.
Yeah, and I guess the first, he talked to Michael Fassbender, who's, a star, and was like, hey, so we're going to, instead of flying us, on a helicopter back and forth every day, because it was like an hour and a half to civilization, we're just going to camp out here in trailers. And Michael was like, do we have to do this? And Derek said, I want you guys to experience this. It's going to be an experience. And by the end, they didn't want to leave, and they basically lived that life for
I think that's
30
awesome.
days. Yes.
Yeah, it feels, like having watched Blue Valentine, which is harrowing, a relation, that relationship just felt harrowing. I think he is the kind of director who likes to go method with his actors.
Yeah.
And I think it pays off. I think the performances in this are extraordinary.
Yeah, and they did fall in love in real life, so he must have something going on.
The New Yorker article.
Wait, what?
Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander are now a thing on the basis of this
they've
film.
been dating since the movie.
Well, you trap 2 super attractive people on an island.
The New Yorker review of this film said something along the lines of, if Derek Cianfrance's directing work dries up, he should start a dating agency, because in his last film, Place Beyond the Pines, Eva Mendes and Ryan Gosling became a couple off the back of it as well, which I think is fun.
Yeah, it's kind of a low blow, but it was. I guess maybe it was supposed to be a compliment. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like what Stanley Kubrick did with Eyes Wide Shut in the exact opposite manner, which is that he sees. He's like, a good director is good at spotting chemistry.
And he saw no chemistry between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
I mean, that's
so it's like, let's throw him in this fucking hellhole.
That's what that film is really about. I mean, and they split up kind of very close after that movie.
I wonder why.
So I think he's got a great eye, and he's got a great eye for talent as well as a visual eye. But let's get into the spoilers, and I'm gonna not do that voice.
Yeah,
again.
please. I don't know what the hell you're doing. So Tom is Michael Fassbender's character. He is the lighthouse keeper. He's just back from the Great War and ready for some solitude as the film starts out. And so he decides to take a job as a lighthouse keeper on this remote island. It's off the coast of Australia,
Janus Island.
Yeah. Which is interesting because and I always thought it was pronounced Janos.
No, Janus.
Janus.
No, but I mean I guess the Greek is Janos.
No, I thought it was Janus.
I don't know.
It was Janus.
Maybe that could just be my Buffy showing, but they fought a guy who worshipped Janos, and it was the two-faced Greek god.
Well, let's go with your authority from Buffy as a.
Yeah, the authority from Buffy, Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
No, so it's it's basically literally between
the Southern Ocean and the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, my geography is not that good.
Yeah.
Annie, is that in the book? Do they say specifically?
Yeah, they have like a whole map and stuff. I don't have the book on me right now, though. I can't remember.
That's cool, though. But and so he goes and lives there. But before he does, he like runs across Isabel, played by I'm gonna butcher her name now that I'm not thinking about it.
Alicia Vikander.
Thank you. And they like have like a they meet real briefly. This is where I thought could have been truncated, honestly, because they meet. There's a little bit of like eye flirtiness. Then he goes off to the lighthouse. Then he's there for 3 months. You sort of experience what the lighthouse is, and I thought that was very interesting. I thought the solitude was cool there. Then he comes back to like report or something, and then he goes to dinner. I didn't understand who Isabel's parents were in relation to the lighthouse. Like her father was on the committee for the lighthouse, but he wasn't the one hiring him. Like there was a lot of tertiary characters where I'm like, there's 6 people at this dinner table. I don't know why Michael Fassbender's in this house because of his job.
Right. I mean, again, I think the thing that you have to take time and context and time and place in context here, which is that it's 1923. The small town is
like 18, right?
Didn't
it start in 1918?
I don't remember. 1923 was the around that period. And there's a small community that relies upon the lighthouse. So the lighthouse keeper, which is my impression was the lighthouse keeper was an important role that was governed by the Commonwealth. So it was.
Oh, so it's like they were like almost like the top tier government being like, we're going to give the guy this job.
Yeah, exactly. It's an important role, and that's why they had a
ceremony later on.
So and then the thing about the courtship as well is again 1923, complete isolation. He's just come back from the war. This is a period, and the thing that I actually really responded to in this film, and Matt and I have talked about this a little bit, is that I stopped dating pre-internet dating. So I've never experienced internet dating, and my dating also was pre-email. So in my era of dating,
did you write Chevalier letters like this?
You would write letters.
Wow.
Did you write them like this?
And I have boxes of letters that were exchanged.
How cute is that?
And the thing about that is that I really I loved in this film was the sense that writing letters took time, and you really had to think about what you were going to say, and it took and the feeling of getting a letter back is something that can never be replicated by email. It can never be replicated by Tinder or whatever, because the amount of time it takes for this letter to get back to you, and the thing is that when you got a letter back, you would read it 5 to 10 times. You read every line of it.
Shahir, I'm going to send you a letter in the mail, and all it's going to say when you open it up on really nice parchment is, you up?
and you figure, like, letters in this movie, they could only even send letters probably every couple months because...
I know, exactly. He would wait for the captain to come.
Well, the captain came with, like, supplies, right? Yeah. That's what I imagine.
And then he would send a letter back. So that courtship... again, our frame of reference might be you send a letter, it's immediately read.
No, and I get it.
In that situation, that whole period might have taken a year or two.
I know. I understand that. But then it's that, look, the problem is it's a realistic film to a point, and it's just one of those things where you have to buy, and luckily the actors are good, and you have to buy into the fact that it's love at first sight or this doesn't work. Right? Would you agree with that? Because even though it takes like years, like think about it, like maybe they had like 12 letters across a year and one picnic, and then they decide to get married.
Well, but I've seen some interviews and talking about that time, they were basically saying an entire generation of men got killed in this war.
Yeah, it's mentioned
Isabel's 2 brothers got killed. So it was kind of like, wow, there's a new man, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's completely like
I get that, but does that make it more or less romantic?
No, to me, it is the way in which that era worked, which is that if there was 2 people of eligible age to be married, there's inevitably the glances that are, and the thing that everyone is thinking about is that these two will eventually marry. That's the way it works. And to me, there was something kind of romantic about that. Like there was something about that where these two characters glance and their glances are so loaded.
That may be true historically, like what you guys are saying, but I never got the feeling from any other character in this film at this point that they wanted those two to get together. Now, granted, historically, I'm sure that's right. And the glances, yes, very loaded. I'm just saying, in my opinion, felt like it was too long. You guys think it was the right length to get to the baby snatching, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't want to keep hanging on this because this is not the important part of the film.
Actually, but the thing is, because you talked a little bit about consequence and the idea of, we actually one of our listeners pointed out that we do this too much, but the therefore idea that the South Park guys came up with.
Who said that?
Annie.
Who said that?
If you haven't listened to our podcast, I don't know why you wouldn't. We talk a lot about story structure in terms of. One of the things that we liked is an idea that the South Park guys came up with, which was that every story beat should be, and therefore this happened, and therefore this happened.
I remember I saw that documentary when they were talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, did you produce that? Or
no, I didn't, but we might have watched it together, actually, an old MTV edit. I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah. And I think the thing is that the setup of the relationship, the letters, the miscarriages are really the for me the and therefore this is why they make the decision.
100%. Yes. No. I'm not talking about that. This is where. So I actually have written in my notes, and this will help move us along. And you guys can attack me after I say this. But they move out to the island. They get married. They move out to the island. The relationship flourishes. You see them have a lot of lovely times, etc., etc. And then they have basically 2 miscarriages in a row. Mm-hmm. The first one hurts a lot, and it's during like a storm, like emotionally. I mean, And then the second one happens when they're both inside when she's playing the piano, I believe.
Yeah.
You got to remember the context of miscarriages. There, one is when and very early pregnancy,
yes.
and the second one is very late pregnancy, which is the second one would be much more devastating.
Yes. So I have written here, and I do stand by this, that the second miscarriage is the last emotional thing this movie earns for me.
Wow.
Because from that,
dear listener, there you have it. Matt Kroll is dead inside.
But I am very alive. Well, undead. Let's go with undead.
There you
go. Now. Moving on, and we'll just sort of then. So this is when the quintessential boat appears. There's a dinghy or not a dinghy, just sort of a
little raft,
little boat, sure, let's call it a dinghy. Comes up, and there's a dead man holding a very live baby. Mm-hmm. Now, how long? But after the second miscarriage, just like maybe like a couple days.
They didn't really,
it was very
Really
fortuitous.
say, yeah.
It's very shortly after.
Yeah. So they get the baby out, and the guy's dead, and Michael Fassbender's character, Tom, he's like, okay, I got to go report this. I got to go send it along the wire. Because they had what's it called? Boop, 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 boop. Morse code. Yeah. And Isabel's like, no, like, let's just wait a couple days. And you're like, okay, I see where this is going. And then eventually they hatch this plan because, and granted, they talk through it. It's not done lightly, but... They take, in my opinion, the crazy person route of not returning the baby. Like Isabel is like trying to convince Tom, like they're just going to take him and then she's going to go to some horrible orphanage and then she's going to never have a life. And like all stuff we know extensively probably is not true.
Actually, I've done, there's a project I'm writing about 1895 New Zealand and ostensibly Australia in that period as well. Mm-hmm. And that's the story about horrible orphanages. Is very
I'm not
true.
saying the orphanages are not awful, but this is what I'm saying. My point is this. Yes, random babies or babies turned over to the state like in the country, yes. But a baby found in a boat with a dead man at sea by a lighthouse keeper would be, even though it's olden times, front page news, and it's a baby from a woman from the town that they're from. So this would have just instantly gotten, like, it would have been so big that whoever's baby this was, it would have been A, well taken care for because it would have been in the public eye, and B, they would have just found, like, it would have gotten to the right person. So while I agree with the fact that, yes, orphanages are bad and random babies are like, not found in extreme circumstances would totally go through that. But
But they didn't know where this baby came from. They had no idea.
But But do you get what I'm saying? Like, this is something like lighthouse keeper finds infant in ocean. Like, that's something that's going to be plastered across news everywhere.
But the point there is that the second miscarriage was happened very late pregnancy.
Yes, she's not thinking clearly.
No. The point there is that they make the conclusion that it is reasonable for people to expect that it was just their baby.
Yes, the lie will work. The lie would have worked if they stopped being stupid, but but it's still a lie. You're still stealing a child.
Yeah, but in the book, there was a line which I thought they should have kept in the movie. Okay. And it was something about the fact, like I think Isabel said when she was trying to convince her and Tom that they should keep the baby, was what woman would let their baby go out with just a man, whether it's her father or whatever, in a boat alone? So they were assuming, they said something like, I bet the mother had already fallen off. Like the mother wasn't in the picture anymore.
Now, here you go. If that was in the film, if that line was in the film, I might have felt different.
That was like the one thing that I was mad that they didn't put in the film.
Well, the interesting thing is when they were having, because my thing there was, I was like, is this film going to convince me that I don't have to agree with their decision, but I have to understand why they made it. Mm-hmm. And is the film going to convince me that they made the decision, that they've thought through the decision? And the first thing that I thought about was as Isabel was trying to convince Tom, she said, Tom retorts with the first thing that I thought of, which was, well, if we turn in the baby, we will be probably first in line to adopt it. But we should, there is this baby has a mother somewhere out there, and we need to make sure that at least we try to get it back to the mother. And then Isabel retorts with, no parent is going to want, no state is going to give us this child. This child is going to be taken away to an orphanage. We are a single couple living in an isolated lighthouse. No one is going to give us this child.
Right, which is why I think that line doesn't work with Annie's line she mentioned from the book would have made me feel better about it.
I think that would have compounded the issue, like that would have added to it. But for me, again, I didn't agree with them. I completely 100% as a human being thought they should try and get this baby back to the mother and they should have reported it. But I understood the rationalization that the film makes to get us there.
Yeah.
I couldn't get behind it. And that was the moment where I stopped getting behind anyone. But then, so let's just sort of move forward. So Tom wants to report it, but they don't. He goes and buries the body. And then she convinces him, well, let's see, they act like it's theirs. So yeah, they basically convince everyone on the mainland that they had the baby. The baby came early, and they go home and they have like the baptism, right? And during the baptism, Tom sees a woman crying by a gravestone. Okay, sure. He goes over and the woman leaves, and he sees on the gravestone it says "loving father" and blah blah blah, and like "lost at sea" or something. Basically, a way that hints at the fact that, oh crap, this is probably that woman's baby.
Yeah.
Then he hides that from Isabel forever.
Well, he writes her a note.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the fucking Scooby Gang that Michael Fassbender does for this. So, due to his guilt, Tom he leaves a note in the mother, Rachel Weisz's, I forget her character name. It was
Hannah.
Hannah. Thank you. He leaves a note in her thing saying, your husband is at peace and your baby is safe. Like, as if that would make it so Hannah, who probably wasn't looking anymore, would stop looking.
So,
what do you think about that, Andy? What do you think about this little, and it happens a second time later, but what do you think about this as a story device?
Well, I felt like the whole time he wasn't 100% on board keeping the baby.
No, he loved Isabel so much that he decided to go against his good judgment.
Exactly. So it was like the love for her, obviously kept him from, giving the baby back. But I think it just tore him up inside. And he just thought that was the only way he could, make himself feel a little better. Maybe, I think he really thought maybe that would help Hannah. Like just knowing hey, your baby's okay. I know. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but again, that was in the film.
But also,
so,
I also like the thing is that what I like, I like films, like dilemmas in films where there are just basically two terrible sides of the coin, and the thing here was that he loves that child. He loves Lucy. And he loves Isabel.
Baby's named Lucy, yeah.
Yeah, and he wants to, he loves being a father. He's basically become a father now. But he can't live with the idea that there is this mother that has been, has had her child taken away. So I think this this note was basically the one way he could try to keep both those things together. And now it's a foolish mistake.
It's a foolish mistake and it's a selfish mistake.
But
it made me like his
it.
character even less.
But I completely understood it.
That's literally trying to alleviate your guilt by putting it on someone else, putting it at somewhere else. You
no,
don't think-
he's again, and the film sets us up as well. He is not good with words, and he's not good with his emotions.
He says he's not good at words, but every one of his fucking letters is super eloquent.
Well, he was basically dead inside before he found Isabel after the war, So yeah, I feel like he can communicate with her, but I don't know about anybody else.
So I completely understood what he was doing with this letter. It's not it's misguided
and selfish
and wrong, but I understood what he was trying to do.
Right, yeah, misguided and wrong things. That's what a lot of people do.
That doesn't mean that he's a bad person.
I don't know. We only have a lot of time. We've been going for a while, guys. This has been a good
great.
discussion.
I'm glad we're getting into this. I'm glad you're here, Annie.
Good,
so let's just truck down the plot a little bit more. So then I don't quite remember. They go back to the island and then eventually they come back maybe like years later for a lighthouse gathering, like ode to the lighthouse thing. Right?
Yes.
It's 4 years later because the child
Lucy's now 4 years old.
Yeah.
And they have a lighthouse thing, and Tom sees Hannah in the audience, and he kind of freezes up after doing a speech, and then they meet, and then Hannah meets Lucy and Isabel, and blah blah blah, and then is this at the point where he tells Isabel, where Tom tells Isabel that I found Lucy's real mother?
No, he doesn't say it at all.
She realizes it.
She understands.
Oh, she figures it out.
Immediately she gets it.
Yeah,
of course she gets it.
Yeah, Hannah's sister's like, sorry, my sister was a little off.
That's right.
Yeah. She lost a child and a son or and a husband.
Yeah.
So now,
but then, like, do you hate Isabel at that point? Because then she breaks down and is about to like throw up when she realizes that her Lucy has a mother.
Right now, but this is maybe I am dead inside, guys, because I feel bad for Isabel, but man, like you took a baby. You took a baby. You took a baby. Like, that's not something that I have a hard time with either characters or people that just make a crazy move and then get tore up inside when all of a sudden that crazy move doesn't work out.
Now you gotta. I think the thing is that there's two things, because I watched this with my wife and we have a baby, and the one thing that we both like immediate, Shivali even said, I completely understand the connection to that baby. Once you have a child, the thought of giving them up or leaving them is just unfathomable. I guess. So, and the thing you have to remember as well is that Isabel's character doesn't view this as taking a baby. What she views it as is that
saving a baby. She saved a baby.
She's not only did she save a baby, but also that God, in her frame of reference, gave her a child.
But see, all of these things, and I understand that that's what the movie's trying to do. I don't like the character, and I have a hard time. This is sort of my point, and I know we're running a little bit long, but like at this point, I don't like anybody because eventually, it goes down the line where Tom now leaves a rattle because reasons like
it's the accumulation of that guilt again. It's like,
but he's trying to get Hannah to be found at this point, right? Like he's
basically at that point said we cannot. He has a conversation with Isabel where he says we cannot let this go on any further. We have to end this now. And
she says no. He doesn't have the balls to do it himself, so he decides,
he does have, and he
tries to do it in a sneaky way that won't get him in trouble with Isabel. Otherwise, he would have just gone up to Hannah and been like, hey, listen, here's some fucked up shit. But no, he puts a fucking rattle and makes the police run around for 2 weeks until the guy who randomly went to the island and saw the rattle like a fucking hour ago. Like, there's nothing brave about what he did.
I don't think there's anything brave about what he did, but I think it's again, he's torn in two different directions here, which is that he needs to do this, but by doing this, he will destroy everything he loves.
Sure.
So, and I think this is like his one way of softly doing it.
I think, and this is the whole thing, and then we'll sort of go through the ending, and I want Annie to say more because I feel like I'm just shitting on this, is I just have a problem with people or characters that like I'm a mini futurist, right? Like when I make when I have time to
like
think,
you're a tiny person.
I'm a tiny person.
Tiny little
when
person.
I make a decision, especially like a large life-changing decision, perhaps like, oh, I don't know, finding a baby and deciding whether to keep it or not. I think about like 9 steps ahead of like, fuck, what could happen? What's all the branching splits of this? And that's how I base my decision upon it. So it's hard for me, and I understand that people, not everyone does that, and especially Isabel as a character, she's super emotional due to the tragedies that have happened to her, etc. But it's just like everyone who has something bad happen post miscarriages has it coming.
But isn't
Excuse me? Wait,
except for Lucy.
But
okay.
isn't film about like dispensing belief? Like, why does this have to be a true, like, it's not based on a true story?
No. It doesn't have to be true. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm saying I can't. Normally, there's a character that I think is in the right. No character is in the right. Even Rachel, at a certain point later on, when it finally comes to a head, and they have to give the child back, and they go through this thing, and Tom gets arrested. He takes all the blame. Because he's trying to be hero guy and protect Isabel, even though Isabel hates him. Then Isabel randomly lies and says that he killed the guy.
No, I don't think. I think she said she remained.
What happened
silent.
in the book, Annie?
No, so she just stays silent. She doesn't want.
So she never says it, but they still try to try him for it.
Yeah, they
because
just
they presume
they're
that he-
they're
That's
just assuming that.
So then there's a run-in in a ribbon shop between Rachel, now that has Lucy named Grace, and Isabel. And they have this moment where Lucy runs up to Isabel, and they have this horrible, gut-wrenching sort of like, oh my God.
Wait, are you saying you don't, Hannah, Rachel Weisz's character, you think she's a bad person?
Well, let me get to that. I think she's a fine person until after the ribbon shop, because she gets her daughter back, and it's super hard, and it's brutal, and it's not. No one is enjoying it.
I just remembered the film that I was going to mention as well, and it relates exactly to this point.
So let me just finish this and then hold on to it in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene after I think after Lucy runs away and is like trying to get back to the lighthouse, and there's like a search party for her, that Rachel goes to Isabel and says, "Listen, I realize that I might not be the best thing for this girl, and she should go back to you." And at that moment I was like, oh my God, is someone going to do something like almost Christ-like, like giving up their child for the betterment of the child and everyone involved, like taking on that pain herself yet again. But then she's like, if you testify against your husband. And I was like, what arbitrary bullshit is that? You're literally using your daughter now as a bargaining chip to get back at the guy someone told you. Actually, no, everyone just assumes no one told you killed your husband after he was chased away into a dinghy by an angry mob.
No.
Like, that's fucked up.
No, but you have to, again, and Annie, I'm sure you're going to jump in on this.
Jump in.
But
fight me.
But the thing is that everyone at this point believes that Tom is the mastermind behind all of this, and Isabel was forced to do it. That's the story that they've concocted. Yes. So Hannah is basically saying, and I thought this was the most astounding moment in the film, was when she said, I will give, you are the mother of this child, and you need to look after her from now on.
And I'm going to do the right thing if...
No, and basically she's saying, and she says in that sentence, not just if, she's like, no, I cannot hold you accountable for the things your husband did. So your husband needs to be put away. And once he's put away, I will give you this.
So
time.
You need to testify basically because they're trying to put him away for murder. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
But I don't think Hannah is like being malicious there. I think she wants to see Tom put away because she believes Tom is the mastermind behind all of this. And she's doing the most courageous thing. I found that whole thing heartbreaking.
Well, in the book, too, there was a different line when she first went up to that door. And she said to Isabel, the same kind of thing, like, you get your daughter back if you had absolutely nothing to do with this, and you will testify saying you had nothing to do with this.
That would have been more interesting to me. That would have felt right, and that would have made it. That would have saved Hannah's character for me. But I wonder why they changed that.
Because in the book she admitted it there, and then I think you would have hated Isabel because Isabel said, "I already
hate Isabel." I don't hate Lucy. Poor Lucy. And you know what? Hannah's father, who names her Lucy or Grace Lucy or Lucy Grace, like does like a hybrid name. He's a great guy too.
Again, another stalwart of Australian cinema, Brian Brown.
He was super racist about Hannah's German.
Yeah, he was. But I think when she comes up to that door and it's more about Tom, I think then it makes it more impactful later on when she decides to pick her husband over her daughter.
Yeah,
But then what happens here? And we do have to wrap this up. We are going long. But then what happens is, then she decides to be super lenient, just because.
No, because
Hannah, I'm saying.
Yeah. Hannah decides that the thing that I love there is that every parent realizes that that raising a child is really difficult, and the thing that she comes to realize is that these two people loved each other and they did what they thought was right, and she says, well, can both of them go to prison? I want to be responsible? And this reminded me of a story I heard of in New Zealand, very, very quickly. But this was one of the times where I was never more proud to be a New Zealander. But and
he's very proud to be a New Zealander.
But it happened a few years ago. It happened while I lived in New York. But a woman was named New Zealand Woman of the Year, and what had happened was her son was killed by a guy who was a kid who had been speeding down the road.
Sure.
And rather than she went to court and she pleaded with the judge to have clemency on this 16-year-old kid who had killed her child. And she said there is no point in destroying another life when one is already gone. That is not the definition of justice. Right. And she went out of her way to spend time with the 16-year-old and let him learn the consequences. And I was never more proud of being a New Zealander at that moment when this was our Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
And it felt to me what Hannah was doing at this moment was acknowledging that what needs to happen is we all need to move on. And this child needs to be with a family.
That makes sense.
And so I was completely with this decision.
Yeah.
And there's no point at which I thought Hannah was a bad person. I thought she was stuck between she had the most difficult dilemma.
You just brought her back for me, but she still dips into what the fuck, you're awful for me. But you're right. No, the way you just sort of put that, she's the bigger person. She's doing the quote Christ-like thing that I wanted her to do at the doorway at the end.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm saying, and she sees that this family really did take care of her little girl and basically saved her life, and then still gave those little notes and did those little things to, I don't want. Maybe Tom was trying to,
I don't
give her
think
back,
the notes
but like,
are good.
I don't know. I just feel like she wasn't like, oh my God, there's these people that kidnapped my daughter and were horrible to her.
Yeah, she was being the bigger person.
So all in all, then sorry, we do have to just wrap it up. The ending happens. They all grow old. Isabel passes away. The ending happens. Well, no, because this is something else. The pacing of the ending just breezes through. Like, it's like after they embrace on the boat and like you don't quite know exactly what happens to everybody, and then it's like it gives you a year change. And Isabel's dying. She eventually dies. They live up on a hill. And then Lucy Grace comes rolling up in her early 20s with a baby of her own to meet Tom for the first time. And they all stayed away. It was sad that she missed Isabel, like as far as like being able to see her. And then there's the sort of saccharine sweet ending of like, I'd like to come back sometime, blah, 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 blah.
So the thing
that killed me.
Go ahead,
that killed all of us. Like everybody I was with.
Yeah.
That just like the fact that
it killed me.
Right. Everything about the movie and about Isabel Tom was about love, and they always wanted a family, and they had this family, and then they had to give up this family to save themselves. And then the fact that this girl came to find them at the end, and like Isabel couldn't be there, like
Yeah, and you realize that Isabel lived her whole life without ever having another child.
But they breeze by. Like, I would have rather they lose some stuff in the beginning and like actually make me feel that, as opposed to one shot of her in a hospital bed.
I completely felt it.
Yeah.
And Annie, it sounds like you did as well.
No, I mean,
again, I understand I'm in the minority.
Yeah, when he was reading again a letter, when he was reading that letter from Isabel, like that it killed me. I was done. At that, just knowing like that she went the rest of her life not being able to see this girl that last time we saw in the film, she was still
her
dying
daughter.
Over.
She says in that moment that I needed to stay away from you in order for you to have the best. So she essentially does what Hannah said she was going to do.
Yeah.
She stays away. And I the fact that she did that, I thought was just devastating.
Right. The one move that I think Isabel did that is correct is sort of never I mean, you see, it's talked about. It's never sort of experienced. I think that's what gets me too.
Would you want to see scenes of her just not having a child?
I just want to see what happened. Like, just because the story just kind of clips away and then it's like, boom,
basically in the book what happened, and it didn't go into much depth, but they had to, part of their getting pardoned, they had to move away. So they had to live in a town, it was called Albany. It was like a little ways away from where they grew up. So that was like, they couldn't be near Hannah and Lucy.
Yeah. And that would have, I don't know. I just like facts. I like things that, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. We are running so heavy. So I'm just going to say, I'll do my final thoughts because they're going to be harsher. And I don't particularly think, I understand. And obviously you two are smart people that I respect, and there are aspects of this film that I think are done well. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem for me is you have like the good spots of it versus by the end of it, no truly likable characters for me. Any character I can actually root for other than a small child that is not given too much personality other than that of a small child. The mix of all that felt super meh to me. And that I wanted to like this movie because I like a lot of people involved with it, but it just, honestly, if we weren't having this conversation about it, I would never think of it again. So that's it. I got to give it the shitty meh. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just there for me. So you can choose based off these other two fine people. Shahir?
I'll go. I'll let Annie have the final word. So my point here is that I think I'm in between Annie and Matt on this, which is that I actually far closer to Annie on this. Which is that
thank you. Don't try to ride the line.
I did really like this film. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very beautiful. I thought it was very beautifully made. I thought everyone involved did a wonderful job. The thing about your criticism, Matt, is that I think you didn't like characters, and I did not have that experience. I genuinely fell in love and loved every character in this film. And I loved the difficulty with which their decisions had to be made. And the film that I was thinking about earlier was a Hirokazu Korida film, Japanese film called Like Father, Like Son.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, which we talked about before. But it essentially, Like Father, Like Son and this film puts you in that really difficult position, which is that you can either have your family or you can do the right thing. And those are two impossible, like, hard places to be in between. So my criticism of the film is that I think it is a little long, it is a little drawn out, and I think it could be tightened up. And there possibly could be some way to make the moments that are emotionally resonant be more resonant. That said, I think they were there. It didn't quite 100% land for me, but I was on board with this film, and I was on board with everything.
Should people see it?
Absolutely.
All right, Annie, final thoughts.
I mean, I obviously recommend it, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the old-fashioned feel of it. I loved that there was no clear villain. There was nothing that happens in the middle of the movie where all of a sudden everything turns because of, someone else coming into the story. I mean, I know Hannah felt that way, but it was really just about this family and the love that they had, and all the decisions happened because of the love that they had. So it just made it feel like an old-fashioned love story in that sense. And I also liked, not knowing who to like throughout it. There'd be times when Tom gave the letter. I was like, that dick, just fucking stay on your island. Like, you're happy, And then, Hannah would do something. It just, there was so many different back and forth what I felt, but
it's an interesting wave of altruism versus selfishness throughout the entire thing. I will give it that too, because there's a lot of altruism sort of in the beginning, and then it just all becomes selfish, and that does make it hard to put behind.
Again, I think those terms are not the correct terms, because I don't think anyone was doing anything selfish. I think they were they were all just trying to navigate this dilemma, and I love that this dilemma.
Let's take someone else's baby because we lost ours. That's not selfish at all.
But I'd love to, like, anyone who watches the film, I'd love to be like, to ask, and I guess it's, you can ask men and women, if you were in this remote area, miles and hours away from anyone else, you were about to have a baby any day, you have a miscarriage, a baby washes on shore, the person's dead, you have no idea where this baby's from. I mean, you're depressed. You probably can never have a baby again. You've already had 2 miscarriages. like, I don't know, what would you do? Like that was what your whole life ahead of you was about, having a family.
I know. And I can only say from my experience, like who I am as a person, I would give the baby back. And I understand that a lot of people wouldn't. Like I can see the twisted logic behind it.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it's an interesting question. It's just.
For me, I do agree that I think they should have given the baby back. But I completely understand why they kept the baby.
Yeah.
So anyway, Annie, I'm guessing you think people should see it.
I think people should see it, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, guys, this has been the only podcast. This might be our longest episode that's not a Star Wars movie.
Annie, I'm so happy you came on.
The only podcast about the light between oceans. Annie, thank you so much for being here. And to be honest, like, in a way, not keeping me in check, but giving me a counterbalance. I mean, more so like
you wouldn't listen to me.
But two people, to be honest, seriously, and it's not having to do with, I don't trust you, Shahir, because I do. It's just having a counterbalance with me as the minority makes me think more about my reasons. And I think I've changed on a few of them, but not enough to make this a total win for me. But I appreciate the outlook.
Yeah. No, well, I'm glad we changed a little bit of your thinking, potentially, maybe.
Where can people find you, Annie, if they want you to brighten their lives further?
Gillis20 on Twitter. I think I have like 300 followers. But you'll get a lot of stuff about Alicia on there. So if you like Alicia Vikander, I retweet a lot of things. I don't tweet, I retweet. I'm a retweeter.
Nice. Retweeter. And I'm guessing you're going to be seeing an Assassin's Creed movie and a Tomb Raider movie in the near future.
Yes, so if you need some help with that, I would love to come on. And Pure, if you guys do Pure, that Swedish film, I'd love to talk about
I would love to do Pure, and Annie, I really think you would love Like Father, Like Son. By the way,
I'm going to check that out. I really am.
Shahir, where can folks find you?
You can find me at www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD.com with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff on there. Robot music video coming very, very soon.
Oh, you promiser, you. I don't trust it.
Coming very, very
Never
soon.
happening.
You can also find us, Matt and Shahir, at onlymoviepodcast.com. We have over 60 hours of content now. You could listen to us for a long period of time. And get in touch. Leave us a review on iTunes, please. If you enjoy the show, that is the one way you can help us out. We don't have a Patreon or a Kickstarter yet, but if you leave us a review on iTunes, it helps us get more ears on the podcast.
Yay! And you can find me at MatthewKroll.com, MATTHWKROL, skeletor the number 4 PREZ on Instagram, or Emperor MSK on Twitter.
And I have to sign off because I have to go be an ant. So, I have to go do that ant thing that I was introduced as in the beginning.
There you go. All right. Well, here it is. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Shahir. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Later.